Ladies, young ladies and gentlemen, things are very tense in Europe. The situation on the Ukrainian side it's on the verge of overtaking all of Europe. It is the chairwoman of the Commission, the European Union, Ursula Vlagen, who has just sent a letter official to all the heads of state of the member states of the European Union, in which letter she sets a deadline, a date to which the conflict in Ukraine must end. In other words, it's a reversal, spectacular, giving military pressure the fire that the Russia put them behind them on. That the pressure is immense, even though they themselves are also in the process of, we will help them develop their strategy. He also asks, does NATO agrees with what is European saying? Because that the weather lately is in developing a strategy, unprecedented strike on the Federation Russia. They are in the process of hit. This morning, it was yesterday, they struck near Moscow on the evening of November 17, 2025. They struck again on the side of Belgrade. They keep hitting that this is NATO's strategy. During this, at the same time, NATO is in the process of provoking Russia on its flank northeast. If I'm not mistaken about the location, towards Finland by the commitment to a military exercise. Hey, you provocateur from Russia. So while NATO is in the process of to provoke Russia properly, the European Union, wants to wash its hands of the matter. They are outdated. Really outdated. Because meanwhile, Russia is only to strike cleanly, to unleash torrential rain, combined drone missiles on Kiev. Even the capital is no longer safe. There strikes everywhere. So, the European Union wants the conflict is expected to end in 2026. But the words used to say it, they are very subtle words. And so, ladies, young ladies and gentlemen, within the framework of this geopolitical conference dedicated to world news, of course, is about. This is the news we are going to talk about. There you go. But before we continue, accept to share the conference in all the groups. Share as much as possible. Put lots of likes. And if you are new, click the button subscribe. Subscribe, it will allow you to no longer miss the hottest news of the moment. Let's go into the depths, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Let's go. The situation is very tense regarding the European Union. According to official information, Europe sets a deadline, the end of the war, as an imperative strategic. They were planning scenarios for themselves win the victory. That is to say, we saw Kadia Scholars, who said that the conflict there is far away to end, even in 2 years. It won't end. And Kadia Scholars, she is the spokesperson for diplomacy, European. I tell you that every day that God does, these people do reversals to 180 degrees. Yes, they make some U-turns and come. Why the head of the diplomacy says that war must continue, we must continue to finance Ukraine, which even pushed Zelensky to embark on a European tour. Despite this European tour has begun, we saw Zelensky in Paris, where at place to talk weapons that Ukraine needs receive. President Emmanuel Macron was looking rather than planning a lovely evening with Vladimir Zelensky after that is to say, he is troubled in his head. That was a digression. It's like saying he went search for weapons, order money, while that's NATO's strategy. But meanwhile, the European Union recognizes his weakness. They no longer have financial resources. They no longer have the financial means. So in her letter that Ursula von der Leyen addressed the head of state of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen indicates that the war in Ukraine must be completed by the end of next year. This has to end. In any case, 2026 must be the end of it. Later, at the latest by the end of 2026. What are the reasons? So first of all, it must be said that the interpretation of this letter is that Brussels no longer speaks in terms. There is no hope or scenario. There is no more of hope. Russia has shattered all hope, hopes, everything. They went through it all. They had the resources, but Russia destroyed everything. So I'm no longer speaking in terms of hope, nor a scenario. But Brussels is giving a deadline for planning the financing. Energy and defense enable Ukraine to survive until 2026. They themselves are in more of a hurry now than Ukraine. And what did Russia say? For a very long time, Russia has said, okay, let's go. You want one endless war? We are ready. Russia has been rotating and is currently to run the engines of the factories full-time drone production. Russia is running the factories in full time. Production is 24/7. 24/7. No rest. The teams take turns. Yes, a team comes to do such a number. After a few hours, the others return. At that time, Russia's allies continue to bomb Russia. I was going to say continue to offer next generation weapons at the Russia. So the European Union is really scared. So we have to say that we're going to see the patterns cleared earlier officially by Osavlen. But already, this is a signal to the member states. The European Union wants to avoid a war that drags on, that ruins the budget, which divides opinions, public, and which weakens the economy European. The European economy is at knees because of this war in Ukraine. They thought he could to achieve victory over Russia, but that was underestimating Vladimir Putin. The gentleman prepared himself there for a long time, a very long time. So the message behind the words, that means if the war goes beyond this date, European cohesion collapses. European support disappears. So what is the underlying pattern? These are economic reasons. Because Europe is paying the price for this war. There is energy inflation. There is the industrial decline. There is the explosive deficit in Europe. Things are not going well. Not. If the war continues, it won't work. No. The Europeans just wanted to beat the chest, to play with the bombs. They are big, but deep down, there is nothing there. The Europeans have nothing. So there is also another military motive. The motive military, that's what the arsenals are. Europeans are empty. Their stocks are depleted. They have everything sent to Ukraine. Even France, which today we are receiving Vladimir Zelensky, the France is promising simply. But where is France? Will he take up arms to give? Why the country itself needs? They emptied all the weapons. There are also political motives. Elections in France, in Spain, in Germany, and Italy threaten and to bring in rulers, anti-war governments. These different elections which will have place soon risks sending leaders who will openly oppose so squarely in politics European. So we need to anticipate things on things. So there's also the strategic motive is that if the war as it continues, Washington turns to Asia to prepare for a clash with China. And so Washington will not be no longer too focused on Europe. Washington will focus on the China. So here's what's in, ladies and gentlemen, this is happening. In any case, for the moment, I've seen Russia's reaction again. From the start that is going to fall, we come back to analyze. Thank you all. I'll get back to you in a little while.